Alrighty then. Let's see if we're live. Hey, Kevin L., how you doing? How's your July 4th going? Hey, Raven. He's alive! He's alive! Indeed. Indeed. Hey, Ben. Hey, Navigator. Navigator True. All right, cool name. How you all doing? Hola, Dr. Waluigi. Happy 4th to you as well. And I apologize for all my viewers that are not in America right now and celebrating this particular holiday. It's mainly just blowing shit up and eating a lot of like hot dogs and burgers. That's basically all it is. Do you watch Planet no, I don't believe I do. No, that doesn't sound familiar. What is it? Let me know. Hey, Vanderhoff. How are you doing? It's all good. Canada Day was the same thing. Yeah, makes sense. For those of you that are, who do have the day off and are celebrating 4th of July, what are your plans? We've got a 4th of July party that we're going to go to, which, once again, is just going to be burgers and hot dogs and blowing shit up. You know, the usual. It's a horror YouTube channel, correct? Oh. Planet Shit is a horror YouTube channel. No, I've never watched it, no. CHH Christian Hannah Horror. It's a horror channel. Okay, here's a very distinct question. When you say it's a horror channel, is it like one of those they do scary content, or is it a channel in which they talk about horror? Because I generally don't care for most scary internet horror. I tend to find it boring most of the time. But if it's a channel where people talk about horror, like horror books and horror movies and horror games, I might like that. You're going to grill? Hell yeah. Enjoy your grills. If you like hot dogs, there's always Nathan's hot dog eating competition on ESPN. That's true. That's true. 5 p.m. Eastern. Hey, Falxifer. And I apologize if I mispronounced that. Please feel free to correct me if I did. Hello, how are you, Ben? Been a fan of you since I found you through Count Jacula when he was on Blip. Oh, man, back in the day. Back in the day, the early days of the channel, which I think was like the first year and a half on Blip, before we eventually had to transition over into YouTube. Though, to be fair, I was running my YouTube channel alongside my Blip channel at the time, so it was a pretty easy transition. But yeah, Blip, back in the day. Hi, Mr. Guru. I'm a new sub. Well, welcome, Arnold. I hope you enjoy your stay. They talk about horror physical media? All right, that sounds cool. I'm down with that. I'm an interpreter for Spanish-speaking people in the U.S. Nice! Rock on. I found you when you did your Silent Night, Deadly Night review. Shit, what year was that? Was that like 2015, I think? Maybe 2014? God, been doing this for so long. The years blend together. Have you seen Harvest Home? No. What is it? Had a Big Mac earlier today. Hot a la George Foreman grill later today. Nice. Enjoy. Enjoy that George Foreman grill. Those things are surprisingly useful. They're not just a gimmick. Yeah, hot dog, not hot a la. That was... I get it. Typos happen. Yep, and while I had work today, there's barely any calls. Gotcha. Rock on. Though, if you're a person who is paid on commission, then I hope you get a lot of calls. But if you're a person who's not paid on commission and just for showing up, I hope you have a chill day. I think I discovered you when you did either Pumpkinhead or The Deadly Spawn. Oh man, I love those videos. So much fun. Have you seen the movie Hate Crime from 2012? No, I don't think I have. Is it any good? Do you like Neon Maniacs? Yes, I do enjoy Neon Maniacs. I first saw you in Count Jacula's Targets review. Nice. That's one of his best reviews, in my opinion. He has a lot of good reviews, but that's one of my favorites. Hey, y'all. I'm still hiding out. Fair enough. Feel free to hide out here. It is like 3 hours and is a Find Wicker Man kind of folk horror. Nice. All right. Nice. On a whim, I watched Alien this morning. It got me thinking, why isn't sci-fi horror more of a thing? I don't know. It's the mainstream is really weird. There's like certain subgenres that like have a hard time gaining a foothold. The mainstream tends to not like horror blended with anything else a lot of the time. So sci-fi horror, fantasy horror, horror comedy too. Though recently, I think the mainstream has gotten much more accepting of horror comedy than they used to be. I liked Jack's videos on that weird internet number guy. Weird internet number guy. I need you to remind me of the name of an old horror movie. Bill's name was Danny, and he goes into the bathroom and he finds a terrifying woman. I'm not sure based on that description. Hey, Guru, how you doing? I'm doing all right, Cat Hermit. How you doing? I'm going to take a chance on Livid. Has anyone watched it? If it's the French horror film Le Vide, or however it's pronounced. I enjoyed that movie, yeah. Got a nice twist. Twisty twist. Sci-fi horror can get expensive too. That's another factor. Like normal horror, like people going into like a cabin in the woods or something like that, pretty cheap to make. Sci-fi horror where you've got like spaceships and massive sets and alien planets, yeah, that gets pretty pricey pretty fast. Sci-fi horror went to video games like Dead Space. Yes! Video games do sci-fi horror a lot more often. And that might actually be because making a sci-fi horror game isn't necessarily more expensive than making any other horror game. Because you still have to just recreate everything in pixels anyway. Any opinions on the Never Hike Alone fan films? Never seen them, so no opinions. Are you a fan of the movie Evil Laugh? I don't think I've ever seen Evil Laugh. What are your thoughts on The Gallows? It was the first time I was disappointed by a horror movie. Oh man, I remember seeing that movie and just being so mad at how bad it was. Not a good movie. Not a good movie, The Gallows. Are you talking about The Shining? Oh, guy goes into a bathroom and there's like a creepy old lady in it. If that's it, then yeah, that's The Shining. Yeah. If it's like a naked old lady, then yeah, you're talking about The Shining. Yeah, it could be better. I'm all right, but not really a fan of this holiday. I hate fireworks. Fair enough. Fair enough. I imagine if sudden loud noises are like a sensory trigger for you, then this would be a terrible holiday. That's why it's a bad holiday for cats and dogs. What is your favorite found footage movie? I made like a list of found footage movies like not too long ago. Let's see if I can find that. If I can find that real quick. I can't have put it too far. By the way, Guru, your review of Boy is Afraid made me watch it. I actually liked it more. Not being bludgeoned by every twist helps. Fair enough, yeah. I'm glad you enjoyed it, and I'm glad we were able to help you enjoy it. Do you like Megan, the AI intelligence horror movie from earlier this year? Yeah, I dug that movie. That movie's fun. I've been disappointed by many horror movies. Yeah, it happens. On your last post, From Black, what is the item above Jack? It looks like a hamburger with yellow teeth and a purple tongue. Hold on. Let me pull up the video and take a quick look-see at what you're talking about. Let's see. Item above.
Greetings, fellow Gore.
All right, let's see. Oh, it's a mimic. Like from Dungeons and Dragons or Final Fantasy, like a little chest with like a mouth in it. It's a mimic. That seems to be what you are asking about. Now, what did I do with that list of found footage movies? Let's see. Ah, yes, here we go. I made a convenient list of my favorite horror movies that are found footage. I guess favorite found footage movies. Not all of them are necessarily straight up horror. But my favorite is No Ride the Curse, which is a Japanese found footage movie that I highly recommend. Troll Hunter is another one of my favorites. Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon. Afflicted, which is a cool little twist on vampires. Cloverfield, which I think most of you know what Cloverfield is. I don't have to explain that one. The Sacrament, which is clearly a found footage movie based on the Jim Jones incident. Chronicle, which is a found footage movie that is kind of like Carrie with guys mixed with Akira. There is The Last Exorcism, which is another found footage movie I really enjoy. Exists, which is a found footage movie about Bigfoot, but not to be confused with Willow Creek, which is the Bobcat Goldthwait Bigfoot movie. Exists is from the guys that made Blair Witch Project. And I like it a lot better because it's kind of like a slasher movie with Bigfoot. And What We Do in the Shadows, the original movie. Another one of my favorite found footage / pseudo documentary movies, but way more of a comedy than anything. So there you go. There are some of my favorite found footage horror movies. All right, let's see. Let's catch up on some of these responses. Give Comet the super chat. I actually gave him some wet food this morning, and he was quite happy with that. So maybe I'll give him some more later in honor of this super chat. Did you pick up the A Blade in the Dark? I do have a copy of A Blade in the Dark, but I don't know if there was like a new release. But like I have my old Blue Underground copy somewhere. Hell House LLC. I love those movies. Those 3 movies are great. I haven't seen a lot of found footage movies, but the ones I've seen I like are The Blair Witch Project and Behind the Mask. Those are good ones. Hate Crime is the most disturbing found footage movie I've ever seen. Well, I'll definitely have to check it out. With a recommendation like that, I gotta check it. Hey, Lord, how you doing? Is it Vlygar? Is that how you pronounce it? Lord Vlygar? Lovely Molly? Oh, yeah, that Lovely Molly is a movie, right? I feel like I saw that at some point a while ago. Are you excited about the Robert Eggers Nosferatu? 100%. I am all of the excited about that Nosferatu. Wreck is a good one. The Wreck movies in general tend to be pretty good. Even when they stopped being found footage, they were still pretty good. Your favorite is Frankenstein's Army? I enjoy Frankenstein's Army for all the awesome creature designs. I only have one big problem with Frankenstein's Army, and that's that it's supposed to be found footage, but I do not buy the high definition footage that movie is shot in as found footage in the slightest. Because it's supposed to be in like World War II, right? Tenebrae is your favorite Argento film? That's a good one. Good choice. Man, favorite Argento film? I'd probably end up going with Phenomena, to be honest. I fucking love Phenomena. Jennifer Connelly being Jennifer Connelly and the weird power of like controlling flies and shit. The Lordess of Flies. And of course, it inspired the video game series Clock Tower with the Scissorman. VHS is probably my favorite when it comes to found footage. You can't go wrong with the VHS movies. Well, except for VHS Viral. I thought that one was pretty weak, but most of the VHS movies are pretty solid. Can you tell us about a horror movie that you like but that people hate? And a movie that you hate but people like? If that is possible, do a stream about that. Man, I love so many horror movies that at one point in time were not generally liked, at least in online spaces. Like, I'm a huge fan of the 2 Hostel movies, the Eli Roth Hostel movies. Hell, Eli Roth movie in generals I tend to like. But in online spaces, people tend to hate them. But in recent years, I've noticed that's flipped, and people now tend to really like them. So I don't know if they count anymore. But as far as movies that people like that I don't like, I know that there's a couple that I'm now spacing out on. Oh, I didn't really care for Skinamarink or Outwaters. Those both came out earlier this year. Not a big fan of them. They just didn't work for me. They're good on atmosphere, but they're not good on delivering on that atmosphere, at least for me. I didn't find them generally scary. I also tend to not be a fan, like I said earlier, of internet-style horror stuff, analog horror stuff, or like creepypastas. They generally don't do much for me, and I don't really care about like the digging for lore aspect either. I want my story to be within the story, and I don't want to like dig through a whole bunch of random ass YouTube videos to figure out what the story is, because frankly, if I have to do that, I don't care. And if I'm doing that, I'm also not scared. I'm just like, I don't know, just not a fan of it. Diary of the Dead. I thought that movie was okay. I thought Land of the Dead was super underrated, though. I will defend the hell out of Land of the Dead. Martyrs. I fucking love Martyrs. I'm in general a huge fan of the, I guess it's no longer the new wave, but the French extremity wave of the early 2000s and the 2010s. Huge fan of French extremity. Lake Mungo, good choice. Good one. Oh, you thought Lake Mungo was boring? Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. I don't like the Scream movies just because they aren't funny / scary. Okay, fair enough. I know Scream is a great example of a franchise that I've loved my entire life, ever since I was a kid and watching them. But whenever I was online, everyone online despised them in all the horror spaces. But now you go onto like horror Twitter or horror TikTok, everybody fucking loves Scream all of a sudden. So again, at one point in time, they were unpopular, and now they're extremely popular, so I don't know if they count anymore under things I love that people hate. How about Wii videos? I recently saw Opal, and I really loved it. All the songs were bangers. I don't know what that is. Do you like Clown House? Are you talking about Clown House or Fun House? One is a Tobe Hooper movie, which I believe is Fun House. And Clown House is the movie made by that pedophile whose movies I refuse to watch anymore. So yeah. Agreed, Land of the Dead is super underrated. Yeah, and the best thing about Land of the Dead is that it's actually aged like fine wine in the current years of dealing with our corporate tech overlords. The one about zombies on the border town. I'm not sure which one you're talking about. Opal is an Adult Swim short. Oh, I'm not sure if I've seen it. I'll have to check it out. And it is possible that I have seen it and I just didn't know what it was called, but... As a horror fan, would you ever stay at the Clown Motel, the allegedly haunted motel? Yeah, I would. I would totally stay at the Clown Motel if I had an excuse to. Actually, that'd be a fun date with my girlfriend if we were ever visiting that region of America. For found footage movies, I have a liking to a subgenre of it, paranormal investigators that spend the night in abandoned places. Oh, you mean like that one where they spend it in that haunted like asylum? God, why am I spacing out on what that series is called? They made like 2 of them. And in one of them, the hotel the asylum itself is trying to make a movie and forcing a guy to film a movie. I can't remember what those movies were called, but those movies were fun. Clown House is the one by Victor Salva. Yeah. Horror Guru, please explain John Carpenter's Prince of Darkness. Post-apocalyptic future sending warnings to the past that Satan is rising. I mean, that's basically the long and short of it. What's the topic of discussion? Right now, I am just reading what the chat is asking me and answering questions. Yes, Grave Encounters. That's the paranormal investigators inside the asylum. Grave Encounters 1 and 2. Yeah, those are the ones. I like how those movies are like super in your face. They're super in your face and over the top. And some of the effects don't work, but overall the movies are enjoyable. Hey, Nick Infante, 1992. How you doing? Favorite horror games. I'm a huge fan of the Dead Space franchise, in particular the first 2 Dead Space games. Resident Evil 4 is probably my favorite Resident Evil game. Silent Hill games are pretty good. I really like the underrated 4th one. Any slow burn horror movies since Cargo that you'd recommend? I feel like half of my channel, there's a lot of slow burn horror movies in the vlogs that we do. I'm trying to think of what like a recent one we watched that was truly slow burn was. Not sure. All right, Dr. Waluigi, enjoy work. Did you see The Shining in theaters? No. I have seen The Exorcist in theaters when they did a re-release a few years back. Wait, hold on. There is a point in time in which I saw The Shining in theaters. Peaches Christ, who is a drag queen who horror hosts horror movies, it used to do it every midnight on Friday in San Francisco in the Castro district. She did one for The Shining, and I did go see that like 10 years ago. So yeah, I did see The Shining in theaters once with drag queens doing cool drag queen reenactments in during break segments. Fatal Frame, best underrated gaming series. Jack knows Fatal Frame better than I do. I didn't really play them much. Pie Wacket is very nice and a fairly good twist. I've heard good things about that, but I haven't watched that myself. Pontypool, yeah, Pontypool's a good one. Hey, that blonde artist, how are you doing on this day of the 4th? Yeah, like we try to do vlogs for movies pretty regularly, and I'm pretty sure there's a lot of slow burn ones in there. I can actually go and check and see what movies I reviewed recently and see if I can remember which ones were truly slow burn. Let's see what we got here. Actually, I think the last truly slow burn movie we saw was The Outwaters, and we weren't really big fans of it. Most underrated Stephen King movie. Thinner. It's got a very yikesy representation of Romani people in it, but putting that aside, I'm a really big fan of Thinner. Thoughts on Return to Silent Hill? I'm mixed on that. Is that like the new game that's coming out? I know really nothing about it, so. My BF and I got dressed as Pinot and Ice Cream Man for a party. Nice. I've noticed how there aren't many horror movies set in World War I. The only ones I know of is Death Watch and Trench. Oh, man. Or Death Trench. Oh man, you're right. I guess World War II just captures people's, like, horror imaginations more. So if you're going to make a horror movie set in an old war, that tends to be the one people go to. But you are right. Like, you could make one in World War I and people just don't. The Judas Ghost was good. Nice. Nice. It's a new movie by the same dude who made the first Silent Hill movie. Oh. So it's probably going to have some solid moments, but overall not work as a great movie. That's kind of how I remember the first Silent Hill movie being. Have you played the game Stay Out of the House? No. What kind of game is it? And what's it all about? The Faculty is one I'd love to still see on the big screen. Hell yeah. The Faculty is actually one I did see on the big screen back when it came out. I was too young to do it, but they were a little less worried about kids sneaking into R-rated movies back then. Hey, Guru, why don't you vlog your work with someone other than Jack? Jack's my best friend. And also, okay, time to pull open some personal wounds. I actually have tried to do a lot of solo vlogs on my channel over the years because Jack's not always available for one reason or another. And I've found that when I do vlogs on my own, people are less likely to tune in. And I've done a couple vlogs with like other friends, and people are also less likely to tune in then. I don't know what it is about Jack and I's dynamic people really, really dig, but for whatever reason, vlogs with both Jack and I get more views and people watch the vlogs longer. So it behooves me to make more vlogs with him than anyone else for that reason. Though, I mean, who knows? There might be a point in time in which I have to transition to doing them more solo or doing them with someone else, depending upon, you know, what happens in life. Any plans to bring back the Horror Guru character? Been watching you since you started on Tigwatig. Okay, so there's a new one that I am editing that should come out before the end of the year. It keeps getting delayed because shit keeps happening. Like I was really like editing it hardcore earlier this year, but then they started doing all this construction on our apartment building, and like I could not focus and concentrate on it as much as I could like doing quick little vlogs comparatively. So it got delayed because of that, and hopefully now that has calmed down, though, we have a new landlord coming in, and there might be some new construction that's going to happen post the new landlord coming in. So we shall see. But barring any major life changes getting in the way, I'm hoping to get the new Blood Splattered Cinema out before the end of the year. But I hate making promises like that because every time I make the promise, I feel like I never live up to the promise, if that makes sense. What are your thoughts on The Suckling? I don't think I'm familiar with The Suckling. I have nothing against Jack, but I just liked that she worked with other YouTubers. Oh, who's the she you're talking about? Crossover between you guys and Dead Meat and Found Flicks. That'd be cool. I do enjoy the Dead Meat guys content. Blah. Not context. White Wolf Gaming. I have a good idea for a horror movie set long ago. Some ancient demonic spirit possesses Napoleon, making the Napoleonic Wars as bloody as they are. Still working on how the crisis could be solved. I mean, I don't know too much about my history of the Napoleonic War, but as far as I know, it doesn't end well for Napoleon, right? Sure, you can figure something out there. That's why I mixed. The first movie is already not good. Oh, the Silent Hill movies. Yeah. Yep. That first one is a huge mixed bag. The second one, weirdly enough, has more stuff that's more true to the games, but is also a worse movie. Yeah. Silent Hill movies have not been blessed with the greatest of adaptations. Oh, forgive the type. Oh, sorry, Sarah Queen. My bad. I honestly, okay, Horror Guru times Dead Meat times Red Letter Media. I honestly don't think I would get along much with the Red Letter Media guys. They are far too cynical for my tastes. My favorite appearance that you had in Jack's videos was the Halloween 2 review. Oh shit, what was my cameo in that one? I can't remember what my cameo in that one was. I remember the video, but I'm having trouble remembering specifically what the bit was in that one. Horror Guru times Dead Meat times Red Letter Media plus Dr. Wolfula cameo. I think Dr. Wolfula I would get along with. We don't always agree on everything, but I thoroughly enjoy what that guy does. You did the Anbit tombstone on the... Oh, yeah. Okay. All right. Silent Hill movies are great visually, story-wise, not very good. That's a pretty good way to sum it up, actually. Kind of nailed it there. Much more succinctly than I did. It's a fan fiction I have in my head of Michael Myers being a bioorganism like in Resident Evil. That sounds like an interesting fan fiction, my friend. Keep on riding. Do what you do. Iron it out. I have an idea for a new Romero movie called Politics of the Dead, which is The West Wing meets Living Dead. Oh, man. Like... a zombie movie set in the West Wing. I'd be interested in that concept. All right. I'm interested to see where you go with that. Hey, Ralph, how you doing? I'm doing pretty well myself. I don't remember entirely, but what do you think of the premise of demon-possessed Napoleon causing the world to essentially go up in flames? Hey, with a premise like that, I definitely would want to see it to see how it turns out. You and Jack were the only guys to review Benny Loves You. I checked it out and loved it. Almost bought the Benny doll, but import fees were crazy. Oh, yeah. I think the Dead Meat guys did review Benny Loves You and also had the doll at one point. But I might be misremembering. It might have been someone else. But yeah, Benny Loves You. That's one of those gems that I was surprised more people weren't talking about. I just happened to get lucky that the Benny Loves You team reached out to me and gave me a screener copy of the movie. I had not heard of it up to that point. It explains why he kills and is invulnerable. Yeah, fair enough. The mic is a pipe bomb. What up, Horror Guru and chat? Hey, how you doing, Mike? How's it going? I think that suckling might be too much of an exploitation film, even for you guys. A mutated killer fetus? Oh man, now you're really selling me on this movie. Now I have to see it. The suckling it is? I'll ask for it by name. You play Resident Evil, right? I have played Resident Evil. I tend to be more of a fan of the more recent remakes and the fourth Resident Evil movie than the original ones, because back in the day when the original ones came out, I hated the controls. Demon Napoleon equal Vlad the Impaler. The Napoleonic Dead. Nice, nice. I'm still working on my pitch for a slasher metal band. Have you ever heard of, God, what are they called? Freddy Krueger's Underwear, I think are their names. They're like a thrash metal band, and all their songs are either thrash or Freddy Krueger and slasher themed. Guru, why don't you make your own short horror movies with a comedic touch? I think you have a talent for acting. I've thought about doing that. I think I would do it if I didn't know that short films are hard to get people to watch on YouTube. There are people who have successfully done it, don't get me wrong. It's just a hard sell. Benny Loves You, I'll have to hunt it down. Yes, Benny Loves You. It's a movie about a guy who throws out all his old toys because he's an adult now and he doesn't need them. And one of them comes to life and is not too happy about being thrown out. I love that movie. It's really fun and dumb. It's a British horror movie. And I don't know if they still sell it, but for a while there, they were selling the Benny doll. And I actually have a copy of the Benny doll. You can see it in all my vlogs. It's the little bunny looking thing with the knife sitting in between Count Jacula and I in a lot of our recent vlogs. Yes, FKU, Freddy Krueger's Underwear. Yeah, that's the band. Would you ever do a crossover with the Maniacal Cinephile? Hell yeah. I fucking love Andy. Andy's a great guy. Oh no, not a band, but a movie about a slasher metal band. Oh, okay. All right. Fair enough. Fair enough. That'd be cool. Do you have one horror film that you feel like you can universally recommend? I have like a series of horror films that I introduce to every new friend I have. Like I tend to show people like, hey, have you checked out Turbo Kid? You should check out Turbo Kid. Hey, have you seen Deathgasm? You should check out Deathgasm. Have you seen The Guest? You need to see The Guest. And if they're really into like old stuff, they'll be like, hey, have you seen Night of the Creeps or Killer Clowns from Outer Space? You should check out those movies. So yeah. As someone who's done short horror movies, yeah, they can be hard to generate a high audience. Yep. Though, to be fair, it's not like I have a high audience these days anyway, so I don't think I would hurt my channel by doing it. Honestly, weirdly enough, having a bunch of vlogs that I mainly make to keep content on my channel, but only generate a couple thousand views, probably hurts my channel more than anything. But it's kind of a catch-22. Because it takes so long to make Blood Splattered Cinemas for me these days. It's either not have stuff on my channel for like a whole year, or regularly upload vlogs in which we talk about recent horror movies but don't generate a huge bunch of views. And I opted for the actually uploading option, for better or worse. I always wanted to make a live-action Junji Ito anthology. It'd be cool if you could pull it off. The problem is, Junji Ito, the things that happens in a lot of his stories are so hard to pull off live action, even with practical or CGI effects, because they're so fucking weird, the shit that you have to see in those mangas. I was sitting with my friends and I bet with them that the movie 300 is a horror movie. What do you think of, Guru? I mean, it's more of a war movie, though I can see how someone might argue that a war movie is also a type of horror movie. I can see that argument. My premise is a down on their luck band. They hire a new guitarist who takes over the band and decides to get infamy by doing everything the televangelists say metal causes. All right. You know, I'd be willing to watch that. Have any of you seen the movie Uncle Peckerhead? I think we vlogged it like a couple years ago, where it's like this guy, Uncle Peckerhead, and this punk / metal band, and Uncle Peckerhead eats people. He's like a zombie thing. I don't know if I'd go the zombie route for Napoleon's army or just have demon-possessing Napoleon summon his own army of demons, giving them human guises. I don't know. Go with whatever, makes your dick hard. Or your pussy wet, as it were. And there goes my stream's monetization. The King of Fat. Also, I have a concept for fake Aqua Teen Hunger Force episode where the Aqua Teens and Karl meet Cocaine Bear. I would watch the shit out of that episode. Recommending horror movies tends to be tricky. Some peeps don't like cheese, gore. Yeah. Like, if you're going to recommend a horror movie to someone, you do kind of have to have somewhat of an ability to read what people might be into, or at the very least, be willing to interrogate them a little bit about what their tastes are to begin with. Because if you want to get someone who's not into horror movies, you've got to find an in, right? Like, say they aren't really into horror movies, but they're into paranormal romance. Well, at that point, you can start pointing them in the direction of stuff like Interview with a Vampire and the like. But like, you've got to like feel that out, especially if you don't know them very well when you're doing the recommendations. Good evening, Guru. Hey, how you doing, Gabby? There is a movie similar with that premise. It's called Black Roses, and I have a Blood Splattered Cinema episode on Black Roses on my channel right now somewhere. You just gotta go search for it. I love that movie. Though I think I got the balance of my music and my voice a little off in that video, and it annoys me. What's the most underrated 80s horror movie? Oh, man. Maybe Intruder? Was that 80s or was that early 90s? Just recommend Return of the Living Dead to everyone. I think that's a very good route, especially if... because recommending Return of the Living Dead to everyone is a good choice, because here's the bottom line. If they don't like Return of the Living Dead, you don't want them as friends. What do you think an Aqua Teen episode of them meeting Cocaine... How do you think an Aqua Teen Hunger Force episode of them meeting Cocaine Bear would play out? Not sure, but I know it would be hilarious. Intruder was very late 80s. All right. At least I was in the right decade. Like, for me, I'm not a gorehound. I can do some gore, so I tend to lean more towards atmospheric stuff, like The Innocents or In the Mouth of Madness. It's interesting that you point out In the Mouth of Madness, because that's in terms of atmospheric ones, that's one with a lot more really cool, creepy practical effects than the average atmospheric horror movie. Atmosphere or Satanic Giallo. I like that idea. Into horror comics, Guru? I used to be more back in the day. I used to be really into comics when I was like a teenager. As I got into college and I had to be more careful with my finances, comics were one of those things that I kind of stopped paying attention to just because for financial reasons. But back in the day, I did read a bunch of horror comics that I enjoyed. Why do you think the 80s horror movies are better than movies of this present time? I don't actually think that, though. I think right now we're in a really cool renaissance of art house horror movies that are fucking great. I think the 80s was really great. It was a really great decade for fun horror comedies and things like that. Splatter films. Kind of like how the early 2000s was a great decade for really gruesome endurance test horror movies. I think every decade kind of has its thing that it's really good at when it comes to horror. And it's just about what you prefer. I love In the Mouth of Madness. Great movie. I just remembered I went to a buddy's house and watched Brain Dead / Dead Alive, and just, whoa, it was a little unsettling. Oh, man. It's funny that people would find that movie unsettling, because that's like it's super gory, don't get me wrong, but it's a movie that is so goofy and fun that the word unsettling is not at all what I would apply to it. Am I only one who misses the Crypt Keeper from Tales from the Crypt? Every goddamn day I miss the Crypt Keeper. Yeah, that's what weirds me out. Movies are worse now more than ever, but then they ignore Nightmare Alley, Northman, and just focus on Disney. Yeah. Okay, here's something that actually eternally frustrates me, because as you all know, I am a gorehound and a horror fan, so I am part of the horror community. But I'm also a big-ass fucking nerd, and I love comic book movies. I love Star Trek and shit like that. And being part of these individual fandoms and being in online spaces means I have to hear contradictory narratives 24/7. When I'm in the comic book / superhero fandom space, they're always complaining about movies being corporate products and being all about trying to please audiences and not being artistic enough. But when I'm in horror spaces, because right now we're in the age of like A24 style films, I'm always hearing people complaining about movies not being crowd pleasing enough, not being enough of a product, being too artsy. And I just think it's funny, because it's one of those, being in these two spaces really shows me how no matter what's going on at any given time, the grass is always greener on the other side, regardless of which fandom you're in and regardless of what's coming out. My girlfriend hates horror movies, only watches highbrow dramas, but then one day I showed her Frankenhooker and she loved it. That's your in. Show her some more Henenlotter films. Actually, if she likes Frankenhooker, there is a movie. What was it called? Patchwork. There was a movie that came out a few years ago called Patchwork, which has a similar vibe to Frankenhooker. The premise is this woman wakes up and she's got like 3 or 4 other women's voices in her heads. And it turns out that she wakes up and they've been stitched together like a Frankenstein creature, and she has to figure out what happened the night before that caused these 3 or 4 women to be killed and stitched together like this. If you like Frankenhooker, you'll probably enjoy Patchwork. "13 Ghost" remake is greatly underappreciated. Oh, the one from the early 2000s? My problem with that movie is mainly the way it's edited. I do not like its 90s music video editing, because it means you don't really get a good look at the really awesome ghost designs in that movie. Do you know a Serbian film? Yes, I know a Serbian film. I've watched a Serbian film a lot at this point. I thoroughly enjoy a Serbian film. It is one of the greatest endurance test horror movies ever made. She may like Hollywood chainsaw hookers. Yeah, there you go. That's a fun one. I'm mostly applying the word unsettling to how much red corn syrup and all the gore that was used. Yeah, fair. And that baby was also a little freaky. Yeah, fair. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Checked out Infinity Pool last night, finally. I'm sure I could find lots of flaws in the logic if I tried, but I could care less. That was a wild ride. Well, here's the thing about Infinity Pool. That is a vibe kind of movie. It's not about the logic, because it's very dreamlike what's happening throughout that movie. But like, the point of the movie is clear, regardless of how weird the logic is. Hi, bro. I love the live streams that you do. Thank you. I'm glad you guys are enjoying them. I wasn't sure if anyone would be interested in me just sitting here shooting the shit, but people tuned in the last 2 times, so 3rd time's the charm. Plus, the 4th of July was a pretty good excuse before we head off to a party later. Excited for Terrifier 3? Yes, actually. And I'm surprised at that because, like we said in the Terrifier 2 vlog, I was not the biggest fan of the first Terrifier. I thought it had its moments, but it was like one of the most overrated slasher movies I had ever seen when I saw it because it had been so hyped up by Terrifier fans. And then I watched it and I was like, well, I mean, it's gory, but there's nothing else here for me to latch onto. But Terrifier 2 was one of the best slasher movies I had ever seen. It had great characters, great writing. It had great gore on top of that. I really felt like Art the Clown actually came into his own in that movie. Also, unlike Terrifier 1, Terrifier 2 makes it clear that he's supernatural from the get-go. Whereas Terrifier 1, it comes out of nowhere, and it felt like a cheat. But yeah, I really like Terrifier 2, and I'm thoroughly looking forward to Terrifier 3. He's just getting better and better with each movie. And I hope that after the Terrifier movies, he goes on to make more movies, because I think there's a lot of talent there. Wait a minute, Hollywood Chainsaw Hookers? Never heard of it, but now I want to watch it. Hell yeah, man. Ask for it by name. Art the Clown is my boo? Yeah, I can see why. I can see why. Me too. I tried watching the first Terrifier and I couldn't get into it. Yeah. Like first Terrifier made me question half of the internet. Like, why are you guys all into this? What is going on here? And then people would try to argue like trying to like, oh, well, you see, if you see All Hallows Eve or if you see this short film, and I'm like, once again, this is starting to verge on the internet horror thing where you have to go find this obscure thing in order to understand the lore and all that stuff. And I'm like, fuck that. I do not want to have to go scour the internet to understand the lore of your movie. You should put it in the movie so that I can understand what's going on in the movie. That being said, Terrifier 2 does a much better job of actually giving the audience the information it needs. Y'all watch the new Children of the Corn yet? No. And here's the funny thing. When I saw that the new Children of the Corn went up, I was like, wait, hold on. How many remakes of Children of the Corn is this? I remember Sci-Fi Channel had one, and then there was like a straight-to-video one, and then there was like sequels to those two movies. And I guess there's a new one out, and I don't know. So far, most of the Children of the Corn movies are so awful, I don't know if I want to try to take a dive into another one. After seeing the cast list and seeing Linnea Quigley, I definitely wanted to watch it. Ah, there you go. Linnea Quigley is a good sell. Came out of nowhere. That damn corn. Yeah, it did. I was like, wait, there's a new Children of the Corn? I legitimately thought when it went up that it was like the one from the Sci-Fi Channel and that they had just acquired it or something. I didn't realize it was a brand new ass movie. I don't want to scour the internet to understand the lore. You just summed up my problem with Five Nights at Freddy's. Yeah, Five Nights at Freddy's. I had the same problem with that franchise. And that's why I'm actually really looking forward to the movie, because the movie looks like it's actually including all that information, as opposed to making you have to scour all this shit. You know? Because I played some of the first few Five Nights at Freddy's games, and then I would hear people talk about the story, and none of that shit was in the goddamn games, and I was confused as hell. The games are fun, don't get me wrong, but like the story I had like zero interest in because they weren't really playing out in the games, you know? Surprisingly good, far from perfect, but I enjoyed it. Oh, is it the are you talking about the Children of the Corn movie or something else? Can you do an impression of Meatwad? Where do you go to do the poop? That's probably my best impression I could do. What is the creepiest movie with kitty killers besides Mikey? Have you ever seen the found footage movie Home Movie? That's a pretty good one with creepy kids. I don't know what would be qualify as the creepiest one off the top of my head. There's so many creepy kid movies. I hate horror movies that have to do with space. That's really funny because I think we had a discussion earlier in this very stream about like why don't they make more space horror movies? And now we found the guy that doesn't like them. So there we go. We've come full circle. Have you ever thought doing another Count Dracula horror Guru Grizzly thing again? Maybe. I feel like there was a lot of promises I made about that I never ended up making videos for, and I've been hesitant to like do a fan challenge like that again. Also, okay, if I may open up some personal wounds again. The Count Dracula Guru Grizzly fan challenge thing I did. Back when I did that, I was feeling super burnt out about my channel and the content and just online space in general, because online space had gotten so heavy. Like, we had just gone through shit like Gamergate and all these huge online wars, these massive fandom wars. And I desperately needed to rejuvenate my love of making stupid shit on the internet. And that fan art contest thing did a really good job of briefly rejuvenating my, oh man, this is what it's all about. Just making dumb shit on the internet, making people laugh and smile in these shitty times. But here's something that happened. I did those, and my girlfriend at the time hated them so much. And was disappointed in me for doing them, because if you go back and watch those videos, there were some really fucked up dark jokes in those videos. And it made me worried about making more videos like that at the time, so I just kind of stopped. I'm not with that person anymore. Things have changed, but I think that that initial building momentum that we had when we started doing that, and then having that immediate hitting the brick wall of, oh shit, I'm disappointed in you, made me go, oh, well, maybe I shouldn't do this. And then I never really picked it back up again, if that makes sense. A little insight into the psychology of Horror Guru and his many sadnesses. Good Son. Yeah, that's a good flick. I mean, myself, I'm not the biggest fan of sci-fi horror movies, but themselves, I'm one of those few people who prefers Inside Number 9 over Black Mirror in terms of British anthology shows. Oh, okay, gotcha. I see what you're saying. Oh man, The Brood. That's a good creepy kid one. I like The Brood. Though I think the real like horror of The Brood isn't really the weird little rage babies. It's the body horror of the mom when you finally get to see how the rage babies are created. At work, I saw someone decorate their van to look like the Mystery Machine. That's fucking awesome. Never seen The Brood. It is I guess I would call it underrated, but it's more likely underseen David Cronenberg movie from his early days. The Brood Witch. Ah, that is a classic Aqua Teen Hunger Force episode. What about the movie What Did You Do Last Summer? Do you mean I Know What You Did Last Summer? Or is there a different movie with the title you described that I'm not aware of? The Brood is Kramer versus Kramer, but more realistic. David Cronenberg. Yeah. For me, sci-fi horror movies that are my jam are my jam. Like The Thing, Alien, Event Horizon, and even newer stuff like Kids vs. Aliens. Hell yeah. Also, Kids vs. Aliens shout out. That movie was fucking great. I love Kids vs. Aliens, and I have coined the term Goonie-sploitation for them. And I want people to make more Goonie-sploitation films. Would you eat the Brood Witch? Hell no. You crazy? Event Horizon's a great example of a movie that was not well received when it came out, but now is beloved as a classic. I've been meaning to watch David Cronenberg's earlier films, but haven't gone around to that yet. Fair enough. When you do, like, you're in for some treats. Shivers, Rabid, The Brood. There's some good stuff there. Hey, Guru, have you ever watched the Dutch horror movie Sint? That's the one with Santa Claus, right? Well, kind of Santa Claus. I did see that movie. That movie's thoroughly fun, though. I gotta say, as an American, that Black Pete stuff is hard to watch. I understand it's part of the tradition there and all that stuff, but man, as an American, that shit does not translate well. Thoughts on The Quarry? Is that the game with Larry Fassenden? I had an ex that really wanted me to play that game, but I never did. As soon as you said body horror, for some reason, the first movie that came to mind was Rosemary's Baby, even though I don't think that counts as the genre. I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't think I would call Rosemary's Baby body horror, but there are movies like Rosemary's Baby, or like in a similar vein as Rosemary's Baby, that are body horror. A great example would be Starry Eyes. It's got a very Rosemary's Baby vibe, and very much is a body horror film. Sinterklaas or the Catholic Saint Nicholas. Yes, that's who it was. The Quarry was great. Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah. Also, since we were talking about David Cronenberg, did you know that he was one of the directors almost picked for Top Gun? I would love to see what he would have done with that movie, especially at the time. You watched Starry Eyes recently, really enjoyed it? Hell yeah. So it's not Society, I think the name is. What a body horror movie that is. Yes, Society, which is a, God damn it, the guy who produces all the Stuart Gordon movies, and I'm now escaping his name. In 1989, Society, movie about a guy who's trying to figure out what the fuck is wrong with his rich family, and things get really body horror by the end of it. Great movie. I love that movie because when you show that movie to anyone, because of how cheesy and kind of mid the acting is for that movie. Yeah, Brian Usna. It was a Brian Usna movie. Most people start that movie going, what the hell am I watching? But then by the time you reach the ending, everyone's like standing up and going, masterpiece. I wonder what David Lynch's Return of the Jedi would have looked like. It's interesting because at the time you probably would have been like, oh, it would have a lot more body horror. But then you think about it and you're like, over the years, he's started making movies that weren't really body horror at all. So who knows? It might have been more like the Return of the Jedi we know than you think. Never seen Society or Reanimator? Well, if you are interested in some cool body horror movies, then they're worth a shot. Same thing with Bride of Reanimator. From the producer of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Correct. Society. Ask for it by name. I know Jacula does a good Karl impression. He did one during one of his streams. Yeah, he's pretty good at impressions in general. He has that, like, it's like an ADHD superpower. He's really good at not only remembering quotes from things, but he's really good at, like, mimicking them beat for beat. It's like an ADHD superpower because my current girlfriend has the same thing. Reanimator is amazing. My man wore a Reanimator shirt when we got married. That is beautiful. Please tell me that you had like a Bride of Reanimator shirt under your dress or something, because that would have made it perfect. Working in a convenience store, you find the weirdest things. I saw a Korean horror movie called The Piper that was a retelling of the Pied Piper fairy tale. I've never seen that one, but I'm curious. I did see the one called, I think it was called Cinderella a while back. I remember thinking that one was pretty good. Hey, what's up, Guru? Nothing much. How you doing, Hanan? Barbara Crampton, 80s horror queen. Hell yeah. Hell to the yeah. Would you consider Stalker a sci-fi horror movie? Cosmic horror tropes and lots of tension? It's definitely sci-fi horror adjacent, if nothing else. Boring dress, but I got plenty of horror tattoos. Hell to the yeah. That is awesome. Do you think we'll ever get a Trick or Treat 2? Honestly, at this point, I don't know. I think in order for us to truly get a Trick or Treat 2, and then for a while he was working on a Nightbreed project. So he would need like a lull in his career to where he could go back to Trick or Treat for it to happen. Because I know he's been talking about it for like a decade now. Hell yeah, Trick or Treat's a great movie. What's your favorite cosmic horror film? Might be In the Mouth of Madness, if that counts. If Trick or Treat 2 doesn't happen, do we just blame Bryan Singer? Maybe. I don't know. Another cosmic horror movie I really like is the recent The Void. That was a really good one. I used to want a Trick or Treat 2, but now I think it may be best to keep it a standalone. Hey, there's an argument to be made for that, right? The movie's perfect as is, and it's been so many years since. Will they ever be able to recapture the magic? I don't know. Color Out of Space. Hell yeah. That's a good cosmic horror one. Luckily, the Trick or Treat comics scratched that itch. True. True. Those are out there. Tales of Halloween was like a Trick or Treat sequel. Kind of. It had a different vibe. But they definitely are in the same genre of anthology Halloween movies. There's something about Tales of Halloween that felt a lot cheaper, though. Like, they're both relatively cheap movies to make, but Trick or Treat, there was something really polished about it. Whereas Tales of Halloween was a lot rougher around the edges. We need more hood horror movies? Hell yeah. The Void was so good, especially because Roald from Letterkenny was in it. Nice. Nice. I've never seen Letterkenny, but I've seen all the memes. Literally was just about to say Color Out of Space. Nice. What do you think about the new Evil Dead Rise? I think the new Evil Dead Rise is a fucking blast. I think I like Evil Dead 2013 a little better than it, but I still fucking enjoyed Evil Dead Rise. It's kind of like the Aliens of the Evil Dead movies. It even has a similar theme of like motherhood. And by aliens, I mean the second Alien movie, not like Little Green Men. Leprechaun should go to the hood in space. I would pay for them to make a space hood movie. If you had to choose one Jeffrey Combs movie to pick as your favorite, what would you pick? Okay, here's an important question with this. When you say Jeffrey Combs movie, do you mean any movie that has Jeffrey Combs in it, or movies specifically where Jeffrey Combs is a lead? Like, for example, in The Frighteners, he's a supporting character, but in Reanimator, he's the main character. And in Would You Rather, he's the antagonist, so he counts as a lead. I just need to clarify that before I answer the question, because it might be a different answer depending. What is the best horror movie director for you, Guru? Honestly, not Clive Barker. I love a lot of Clive Barker movies. Honestly, Cronenberg. I love Cronenberg's horror stuff. Leaning towards Jeffrey Combs as a lead. All right, in that case, From Beyond is my favorite Jeffrey Combs movie. Speaking of cosmic horror, has anyone seen Lovecraft Society's Call of Cthulhu movie? I feel like I tried to watch it at one point and never finished it. That was like black and white, right? Or am I thinking of something completely different? Annihilation! That was a great movie. I enjoyed the fuck out of Annihilation. Castle Freak's a great movie. I enjoyed that movie. I tried watching the remake recently, and I forget why, but I only got halfway through before I fell asleep. I don't think I was bored. I was just really tired that night. They made it a silent movie? Yeah, I think I tried to watch it, and I just never finished it for whatever reason. You hear about the Cronenberg's next movie? It's called The Shrouds, and it's about technology that lets people watch their dead loved ones decay in real time. That sounds like a David Cronenberg movie, and I'm all in. I fucking loved last year's Crimes of the Future, so I cannot wait to see his next one. Hell, I'm a big fan of David Cronenberg's non-horror movies. A History of Violence and Eastern Promises are fucking great movies. I've never heard of that movie, not Annihilation, the Lovecraft one. Oh, gotcha. Nice, Drace. Is that how I pronounce your name? Is it Drace? Let me know. For some reason, I was somehow mixing up Reanimator and From Beyond, and I have no idea why. If I had to pick, it'd be a constant toss-up between those two as my favorite Jeffrey Combs movies. Hey, fair. Those are some Jeffrey Combs classics right there. And they're kind of the movies that put him on the map in terms of horror. Though, being a huge fucking nerd that I am, I also fucking love Jeffrey Combs in his Star Trek appearances. And he's played multiple characters on Star Trek. Awesome. I'm glad I got it right, Drace. I'm back. Just had a call. I feel sorry for any migrant that has to go to the bank for insurance on 4th of July. Oh God, yeah. That sounds like a pain in the ass. I'm trying to track down Faust: Love of the Dead. Oh man, is there not a copy available these days? In the past, I used to watch the Angel series, and I don't know why I used to enjoy it. Okay, here's the thing. I am a huge Buffy the Vampire Slayer fan, and I watched Angel alongside it. Angel does not hold up very well. It's not very good, except for the 5th season. The 5th season is fucking perfect. But like the first 4 seasons, very rough. Not that good. But there's a part of me that still enjoys those shitty ass seasons as trash TV. I love that Jeffrey Combs pops up randomly. Oh yeah, as like the voice of Brainiac in Injustice 2. His career as a voice actor is very interesting. Like at one point he was Scarecrow on Batman the Animated Series. It's always cool when he pops up. Hey, Galaxy on Art. What'd you miss? Just shooting the shit about random shit. About sums it up. Hey, Guru, did you watch Return of the Living Dead? Hell yeah, I've seen Return of the Living Dead. That movie's a classic. It's a blast. One of the best zombie movies ever made. In fact, it is the origin of why we have zombies say brains. A lot of Whedon's work isn't holding up, and that's without abuse allegations. I disagree with that. Not the abuse allegations part. Like, he's a fucking piece of shit. But most Whedon stuff holds up for me perfectly. Cabin in the Woods, perfect movie. Avengers, perfect movie. Love Firefly and Serenity, though that show and movie always had the problem of Asian representation, which it doesn't have. But putting that aside, those are still fucking great to watch. I loved Dollhouse when that aired. I still love it to this day. I fucking love Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I love his Runaways run, his X-Men run. His stuff, like, I just love his stuff. But yeah, he's a piece of shit and doesn't deserve to work anymore. It's probably just me, but Jeffrey Combs' Ferengi appearance is kind of off-putting to me. Nothing against him. It just looks off, and I can't pin down why. I mean, to be fair, the Ferengis are off-putting. Just in general. I love the Buffy the Vampire Slayer I love the Buffy the Vampire Slayer movie more than the show. Yeah, I know people who feel that way. I disagree with that, but I know a lot of people that feel that way. It's a common feeling. Toy Story, Cabin in the Woods, Firefly / Serenity, The Avengers, and Buffy are the Whedon projects that still hold up. Yeah, fair. The Buffy movie is a guilty pleasure for me. You don't need to feel guilty about that. The movie's fun in its own right. Also, way off topic, but I saw the new Spider-Verse movie. I just want to say, clap, 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 clap. It surprised me at how serious they let the movie get. No spoilers, of course. Yeah, I've heard really good things about it. I still need to check it out. What do you think of horror films presented as amateurs on YouTube? You mean like people's like short horror films on YouTube or something? Is that what you're asking? Been reading more horror books and I've been watching horror movies, and unfortunately I wasn't a huge fan of the last movie I saw, Bones and All, but I've got plans to watch Jaws tonight. Hell yeah, you can't go wrong with Jaws. How did you feel on the show's cliffhanger? Which show specifically? Are you talking about Angel? Angel's cliffhanger made me really sad because the show had just gotten really good and then it ended on that cliffhanger. But I will say, excuse me, I will say this. If you want to know what happens immediately after that cliffhanger, they did make a season 6 comic series that I had for a while. I haven't seen Bones and All, but the premise intrigues me. And of course, the controversy surrounding the movie has got me even more interested in checking it out at some point. Hey, Guru, how's your 4th going? It's going pretty chill right now. In a couple hours, I'm going to head off over to a party. And until then, just chilling out. Though we might wrap up the stream real soon because I think my voice is getting a little tired of talking. I do not have the extrovert powers that Jack has where he can talk for like 6-7 hours straight without like losing his voice or getting tired. Me, I'm very much an introvert. Expressing myself this often, this regularly tires me out. And for some reason, my voice gets tired very easily. I don't know what's up with that. The vampires in 1988 movie was awesome. Which 1988 movie? I actually read the original book, Bones and All, before I saw the movie, and even though all of the book's gore sadly happens off screen, it did a lot more interesting stuff than the movie. Okay, fair enough. Yeah. I didn't even know it was based on a book. The Lost Boys? That's a good movie. Is that the 1988 movie? Was Lost Boys 1988? '87. Lost Boys was '87. What about Near Dark? Near Dark was also '87. Oh, '87. Okay. All right. My favorite movies this year so far are Indiana Jones, Across the Spider-Verse, Cocaine Bear, Scream 6, Evil Dead Rise. Good choices. I haven't seen Indiana Jones yet, or Across the Spider-Verse, but my least favorite so far was The Flash. I didn't like that. Fair. I haven't seen The Flash. Off by a year. It happens to the best of us. I had to just look it up there. So obviously I wasn't going to get it right. Read Pet Cemetery? Yeah, I read Pet Cemetery back in like grade school. Last year I saw The Lost Boys for the first time in cinema, 4K. Really enjoyed it. Hell yeah, that movie's a blast. It holds up to this day, even though it's always been a cheesy, fun movie. I had the same problem with my voice. I remember Amadeus and say there are simply too many words when my voice starts cracking. Yeah, exactly. I also have this dual problem, and it has plagued my video making process from the beginning. And that's this. My allergies tend to dry my voice out. But my allergy medication also has a side effect of dry mouth. So whether I have allergies or whether I am taking medication for my allergies, I am either way going to have a dry throat. Which is fucking irritating. I actually rewatched Vampire's Kiss last night, and that movie still holds up. Need a humidifier? Yeah, probably. Oh, and on top of that, I've also had lifelong acid reflux that I've been having to medicate and regulate and maintain like a reasonable diet for most of my life. And guess what my acid reflux also does? Dries out my throat. Though right now I think it's actually happening because of allergies, because it is very hot. The flowers outside are all blooming, and the cat is constantly shedding. Both cats, actually. Without getting into specifics, the ending of The Flash, specifically the CGI cameos, are terrible, but some cameos did get me. One CGI and one live action. Yeah, I've heard about the controversy surrounding that, and I kind of get where everyone's coming from. Kind of from from all the angles on that one. So I watched this one Rue Morgue movie recently. Forget its name. It came out in 2012 and followed a guy going to his dead mom's house. Okay, Last Will and Testament of Rosamund Lee. Was not a big fan of that movie, to be honest. My history with that movie was I tried to start going on to r/horror on Reddit back when I actually attempted to use Reddit. And r/horror had like 50 different threads, all claiming that The Last Will and Testament of Rosamund Lee was the best horror movie of that year. And every thread about horror movies of that year always had a million posts talking about The Last Will and Testament of Rosamund Lee. So I'm like, okay, r/horror seems to think that this is the best movie of the year. I have to watch it. I watched it and was so fucking bored. And I'm a huge like A24 horror fan, so I do not get bored easily. I like a good slow burn, but that movie just bored the shit out of me. And the way it was hyped up on r/horror, I watched the movie, was super bored. I signed into Reddit, deleted my account, and never signed into r/horror ever again because I realized in that moment that that forum was going to be useless to me. It was like, okay, can't say it was that bad, but it definitely wasn't great. Yeah, fair enough. I can see that. For some reason, when I heard that premise, I thought of Texas Chainsaw 3D. Yeah, I mean, technically. Texas Chainsaw 3D. Oh, man. That movie's goofy. Hey, Savage. How you doing? The Taking of Deborah Logan. That was another one that was pretty popular, but that one I actually did enjoy. Hey, Guru. Hope you're having a great 4th of July. I hope you are too, Liam. Will you be doing any future movie reviews? If you mean Blood Splattered Cinema episodes, yes, there will be more of those. If you mean vlogs, there will also be more of those. We'll probably record a couple sometime this week. But we just put up a vlog From Black, if you haven't watched it yet. Grats, Guru, on escaping the Reddit-verse. Yeah, I tried it once, never again. I feel the same about Midsummer. Yeah, fair enough. I actually really fucking love Midsummer, but I can see how it might not be everyone's cup of tea. Definitely was not the best of that year in any sense. Yeah, agreed. Never been on Reddit? You're probably better off. God, sometimes I forget to talk and just start vibing with the music. All right, guys. I'm probably going to close the stream out soon. Do you have any final questions before I log on out? I haven't seen Midsummer, and I hope I spelled it right. You spelled it right, I'm pretty sure. One thing I use Reddit for is talking about horror books, since I don't really have many friends who have read as much horror as I do. I can totally see how that would be useful. Yeah. 100%. Though I think the worst one that was overhyped was Us. Oh man, I really like Us, but it was super hyped. That's true. Would you make a top 10 movies on Shudder? Oh, I could consider that. That's not a bad idea, actually. Next stream when? Whenever I can squeeze it in, to be honest. It's hard for me to have a set schedule because everything's always in flux. What do you think of Return to Oz? I fucking love Return to Oz. I like Return to Oz better than The Wizard of Oz. To me, that's my Wizard of Oz movie. You have a good fourth party, Guru. Don't drink any Grimace shakes. I'm actually so tempted to because I gotta know why everyone's saying don't drink it. It's the best marketing and the worst marketing. Thanks, Guru. You keep the vlogs going. Yeah, I will. Well, absolutely. I hope you all have a good 4th of July. Even if you don't live in the United States, I hope you have a good day. For some reason, the It movies were overhyped for me, but I thought they were good, but not groundbreaking. Yeah, fair. I mean, as a fan of those books and the original movie, they were definitely better adaptations than the original movie, but that's just for me. Anyway, my fellow Gorehounds, I'm glad that you all tuned in for this stream. I don't know when the next stream will be, but it will pop up in your feed when it happens. But until next time, peace out, y'all, and I'll catch y'all later. And I'm going to go find some, like, tea or something to, like, tea and honey to smooth out this dry throat I'm dealing with right now. Peace out.